For a battle that has been discussed so thoroughly, a remarkable amount remains unknown or contentious about how this dramatic action unfolded. The first uncertainty concerns the French plan, of which two sources, both claiming to derive from statements by Napoleon, give two very different versions. The deployment of the French army indicated that Napoleon's plan was to break straight through the Allied center, driving it back along the Chaussee to the forest and cutting off the retreat of the left and right wings. On the other hand, the memoirs dictated to Napoleon's other companion on St. Helena stated that Napoleon's intention was to break through on his right while refusing his left. Two of d'Orléans' divisions, supported by two of Lobau's, were to attack La Haie Sainte. Two more of d'Orléans' divisions, supported by the cavalry of both corps, were to attack further east and break through the line there so that the whole left of the enemy would be turned. Meanwhile, Wellington's strong right, pinned down by Rieux, would be cut off from Brussels. Napoleon chose to turn the left in order to separate Wellington from the Prussians at Wavre, because Wellington's left wing appeared to be much weaker. And because if Grouchy appeared, it would be on the eastern flank, and the Emperor did not want to be cut off from him. The deployment of the Grand Battery above and to the east of La Haie Sainte against Colonel Antieda's brigade and Sir Thomas Picton's division proves that it was Napoleon's design to exert maximum force against that part of Wellington's line, since powerful artillery support was the keynote of the attack. Napoleon instructed General Dessalles, who commanded d'Orléans' artillery, to construct a gun line from the 24 12-pounders of the Combined Corps Reserve and all 32 guns belonging to the 4 divisions of 1st Corps Infantry, and not to open fire until all could do so simultaneously in order to shock and intimidate the enemy. It was a time-consuming business dragging the heavy guns through the thick mud and into position, and lining up behind them the ammunition caissons and supply wagons, so the attack had to wait until the artillery was in place. In the meantime, the guard and other troops were still marching up from the rear. Execution of the attack was delegated to Marshal Ney. As a formality, at 11 o'clock, Napoleon gave Ney a written order stating simply that the objective of his first attack was the village of Mont-Saint-Jean, and where the cobbled roads met, and that the attack was to be supported by the massed heavy artillery of the 3 corps, firing over the ridge at the troops hidden from view and on the far side. It is apparent that the role of Rieux's corps was to be defensive. His officers understood that they were to seize and hold Hougoumont Wood and to prevent any Allied breakthrough on the French left. Their task was to contain Wellington's strong right wing, maintaining their position at all costs, while the rest of the French army pivoted on them to deliver a right hook. They were only to advance as far as would allow them to support d'Orléans' attack on La Haie Sainte, and in the event that d'Orléans was successful in seizing Mont-Saint-Jean, to form a diagonal line of echelon linking his left to the wood. To divert enemy attention while the Grand Battery moved into position on the heights opposite the British right and d'Orléans prepared his attack, the French began to launch probing attacks to assess the strength of the enemy response in various parts of the battlefield. Although it did not take much scouting to discover that the bulk of Wellington's troops were on his right, most of his troops were out of sight. The very first action of the day came with a demonstration by French cavalry and infantry skirmishers on the eastern flank. Major Taylor's lookouts fired off their carbines to issue the alarm, and Taylor saw that 3 squadrons of French cavalry were approaching. His own squadron of hussars mounted and deployed to the west of the Ohain. From here they could see French tirailleurs skirmishing with Nassars from the cover of the hedges and ditches of the valley around the scattered farmlands, before French horse artillery opened up, killing with one of the first lucky shots the commander of the 3rd Nassau Battalion. The other 9 squadrons of Vivon's Hussars Brigade rode forward from their bivouac to support Taylor and formed a line on the higher ground above the hamlet of Smohain, after which the skirmish in front of them gradually petered out. Meanwhile, though, they began from their position to hear further right the noise of a much more formidable attack.
So let's get down to it. The historical scenario, Battle of Waterloo using Wellington's victory. Thank you, Vassal, for making this game possible. As I may have mentioned earlier, I've had the TSR version since 1984 in high school and never played it. Set it up, looked at it, marveled at it, and there just was no place in my household to set up a game this large and let it sit there for weeks on end and try to finagle people into playing it. Also, I imagine my hesitancy to actually play with another person and try to crack it open as being quite intimidated by the game. Didn't want to get someone to sit there and play with me, and then we just sit there while I read rules and try to figure it out and figure it out and figure it out. Well, now I'm in the latter half of my life or whatever, and I've read a lot of war games. I played a lot of war games. I've read the rules of this game for a long time. I've read a lot of books on Waterloo and the whole Hundred Days War and the campaign, from Napoleon stepping off the boat and reclaiming the throne, the empire, and marching on, and the twin battles of Quatre Bras, Ligny, the aftermath of those, and everything that led up to here, the day of the Battle of Waterloo. And it's a spectacular display. I believe Vassal's done a fantastic job of representing the actual board that comes in the game. I think you can notice that it's not a digitally created map board. It looks like an actual scan of the paper map board, which is way cool. I can even show you that, there's places where you can see where the paper, yeah, like right there. But look at that. That's how I imagined that when I busted out and I line up the maps as best as I could, as I did again and again in high school. That's exactly how it came out. The pieces look great. It looks wonderful. The colors, I love the map board with the contours. It actually helps me greatly than in other games I've seen to understand the topography of the battle as I try to understand the description and the narration of the battle from sources and books to what's depicted on game boards. So the historical, I've set it up according to the rules. I've dispatched, there's 7 committed brigades at the commencement of the game for the Allied Anglo armies, and none for the French. There's 2 commanders, though. There's Ney and Napoleon. Napoleon is down at the bottom here at a plate called Ros Omé. There is an optional rule to start Napoleon in a depleted status to represent his lethargy and his slow start and getting the action going. I considered doing that, but I thought his starting position down at Rosame was significantly far from the front line that's enough. That will give me that effect, no problem, and I'm going to keep him at his full command radius of 8. Nay, I popped in right in the center of the lines on what this, I forget what this highway is called, um, but it's the one that runs right through La Belle Alliance, La Santé, through Mont Saint Jean. So Ney is going to be in charge and responsible at the opening of the game of activating the core commanders I need to instigate the historical battle plan of Napoleon, which I'm in agreement with the book Tim Clayton's Waterloo, 4 Days That Changed Europeans' Destiny, that the attack on Hougoumont that opened up was a diversionary attack. to pull troops from Wellington's strong right side, center right, which would be the western half of the battlefield, into a fight on the western side, which would be Wellington's right flank, Napoleon's left flank. Because Napoleon's main thrust is going to be center left. That's Wellington's center left. That is this valley between the opposing forces just to the east of La Asante. And that is going to be done, as we know, by historical record. And Napoleon's favorite tactic to open up a main attack is to mass his artillery and fire them all at once for shock and awe. And he's looking at, he's got his eyes on the 5th Division, Picton's 5th Division here. And it looks like, what would he call that? The 1st Division of the Nassau Corps. And march on to Mont Saint Jean and conduct this right hook and splat Wellington's large force, cut it off from Brussels, and he retreat. And while doing this as well, Napoleon is very fearful of the Prussians appearing on his right. So if he's got his main attack going on the right, he's got the bulk of his army there, and he can make sure if the Prussians do show up, he'll have enough forces to get between Blucher and Wellington and the two forces. And that's his thinking on the morning. That's what he's going to do. So, and I've gone through and given you snippets from the book of the opening battle and what occurred at Hougoumont and how. And so this is so far the only change I'm making to the game. The game scenario starts at 11:45, turn 11. According to the book, Ney receives his formal orders at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. I'm putting him right here. 11 a.m. he gets his formal orders and he starts to discharge those orders, which include diversionary attack left on Hougoumont and d'Orléans to establish a grand battery out here. And so about 1 o'clock they're hoping to open up, pummel the center, and then d'Orléans' 1st Corps of Infantry is to screen by this valley here, come out on the plain, and launch an attack. And this will give the Grand Battery along this ridge just south and east of La Hacienda the ability to keep on firing right until the infantry starts to make its close assault. And judging by what I think the time it's going to take to do that, due to the structure of the game, the turn order, the command and control and activation of units to do this, I'm seeing that this is going to have me in position at 11:45 to start to do this. That the position will be historically close to accurate. And so instead of, oh shit. All these interruptions. Where were we? Wellington's victory! The massive battle historically recreated! The Vanishing Tower here. So yeah, I was saying that moving the clock back to 11, I'm going to be launching the attack at 11:45 instead of with the game starting at turn 11, 11:45, shaping up the attack. I think this is a minor deal, but it's going to be a long, grueling day, being played over many recorded sessions here. So that's what we're looking at. I'm going to give you some descriptions from the book, what the opening action looks like, and then we're going to play it out, and we're going to take it from there. So let's get at it.